Today we're going to learn how you can easily make great tasting bread during SHTF. Bread that's easy to make because it only takes a couple of ingredients and is made in a fire pit, right after the channel intro. Remember, you are ultimately responsible for protecting yourself and for providing for yourself. Live your life with honor and integrity, and always be the wolf hunter. Don't be the sheep, and never be the wolf. Welcome to this community. I'm an avid prepper, an oath keeper, and I'm certified to teach firearms and the use of deadly force through my state's police academy. If you want to learn true prepping skills and how to protect yourself without getting arrested, then please subscribe to this channel. In a few minutes, we'll actually start making the bread, but first things first. First, I purposely used this recipe because it takes so few ingredients. And the fewer ingredients that something has, well then the better of a chance that you'll be able to make it during SHTF. And second, while I don't push a lot of gear on my channel, I believe that having a good, reliable grain mill, in my opinion, is an important thing to have for preppers. And I'm not going to go too deep into this grain mill, but after I did some research, I believe that the best value for the money was this Wonder Mill Junior Deluxe. So I purchased it a couple of years ago, and that's what I used to mill the wheat to make the bread that's made in this video. And I'll put a link to the video that I did on this grain mill above and also below. And third, I cooked this bread in a Lodge brand Dutch oven in my fire pit to simulate cooking off-grid as much as possible. Now, I'm not saying that a Dutch oven is the be-all, end-all type of oven out there for preppers, because there's solar ovens and other ways of cooking off-grid that I think that are just as important. But I do personally believe, at least for me, that having a Dutch oven is just another important cooking tool for preppers. And lastly, before I actually get to showing how this is done, in this video I'm using einkorn wheat berries. Berries or wheat kernels or whatever you want to call them, but I'm using einkorn wheat to grind down into flour for this bread that we're about to make. And to find out how this einkorn wheat is actually healthy for you, unlike today's GMO wheat, I'm going to put links to the video that I did about einkorn wheat, again, above and below. So let's get on with this bread making and let's see how it's done. The ingredients in this bread is pretty simple and should be staples that any serious prepper will mostly have in their food preps already. You're obviously going to need einkorn wheat, and I ground or milled down enough wheat to make about 4.5 cups of flour. And you're also going to need about 1/4 teaspoon of dry active yeast and 1 teaspoon of salt. And I love this pink Himalayan salt, so I used it in this video. And you're also going to need 1 3/4 cups of warm water. Now I realize that dry active yeast will probably be something that most people will not have after SHTF, because it's my understanding that yeast typically doesn't have that long of a shelf life. So soon I will be learning how to make my own yeast, and I'll be doing a video on that also. But the first thing that I did was ground the wheat until I had about 4.5 cups of flour. 4 cups of the flour I used to make the bread with, and the extra 1/2 cup or so was used when I worked the dough. Then before I added the water, I mixed only the dry ingredients together. I mixed the salt and the yeast in with the dry flour before doing anything else. And then once the dry ingredients were mixed well, then I added the water and mixed it with a spatula until the dough began to no longer to stick to the sides of the mixing bowl. Then I made sure that the dough was somewhat flattened and level in the mixing bowl. And because this is a slow rising, no knead recipe, I just simply covered the dough and stuck it in a dark place for 12 to 14 hours. Now because einkorn wheat can darken when exposed to light, it's my understanding that it needs to be kept in a dark place and protected from the light while you let it sit during the 12 plus hours. So after the dough set for close to 12 hours and the yeast causes it to rise to about twice its original size, the next thing that I did was preheat my Dutch oven by placing it over hot coals in my fire pit for about a half hour before I was ready to actually start cooking the bread. So while the Dutch oven was preheating in the fire pit, I removed the dough from the dark place that I kept it. And I used some of that extra leftover flour to put on my workspace and also my hands to help keep the dough from sticking to the countertop and also to my hands. And I simply worked the dough just a little bit by folding the sides over, and I worked it just enough to shape it. Now, according to this recipe, there is no need to let the dough to proof or re-rise before sticking it in the Dutch oven. So now I just place the dough into the Dutch oven and then put the lid on it, and then I put hot coals on top of the Dutch oven's lid for it to cook between 40 and 45 minutes in the fire pit.
Smell the bread. Smell good. It does. We're going to have it for breakfast tomorrow.
I'll tell you what, all I really have to say is this stuff smells so good while it's cooking. And if you were in a situation where you couldn't let others smell that you're cooking food, this is something that you definitely couldn't be cooking, because the smell of this bread cooking is really just making the area smell like a bakery. Okay, so it's been about 40 minutes later, and we're going to check the bread to make sure that it's done by tapping on it. A bread that's cooked long enough should have a hollow sound when you tap on it. And then I just simply remove the bread and I place it out to cool for about 1 hour before I actually start slicing it. Now, I don't think that my camera is really doing this bread justice, but this is some good looking bread. Okay, it's been an hour now and the bread has had time to cool, so let's see how it slices. Alright, let's see how the stuff tastes. Looking at it, I can see that it is firm enough that we could make sandwiches out of it. The rind, whatever you want to call it, is not so tough that it looks like it's going to hurt your gums or hurt your teeth when you go to eat it. Looks like it's just the right consistency on the outside and the inside. So let's see how it tastes. This is good kick butt bread. Tastes just as good as any of the wheat bread that might be given to you as an appetizer at a fancy restaurant. This is really good bread, and it smells so good when it was cooking in the fire pit in the Dutch oven. The downside to it takes a long time to prepare with the grinding it and the mixing it and letting it set at room temperature for 12 hours covered. Usually for me, mixing it the night before and then letting it set 12 hours and then actually making it the next day. Well, if SHTF happens, as long as I have my grain mill and as long as I have wheat to grind, at least I know we'll have good bread. Now folks, I've not made a whole ton of bread in my time. I'm just testing this stuff out and learning as I go. So I'm pretty sure that some of you serious bread makers probably saw me make a few mistakes in the video. And if you did, don't hesitate to put any helpful tips down in the comment section below. So again folks, hear what I'm saying in this video, but also research it for yourself and make your own informed decision. But my personal belief is that a good grain mill and a Dutch oven are pretty important preps to help complement your other preps. And lastly, I'm not getting any kind of a kickback from any company or product that I mentioned in this video. Anything that I mention is because I think it's probably worth its value and will last you for a very long time. While I enjoy making these videos for pennies on the hour, I am wishing to purchase better video and editing equipment that will allow me to make better quality videos for you all without actually putting me into debt to make the videos. So if you have the disposable income, please consider joining my Patreon video channel, where for just $1 a month you'll get early access to videos and also receive special prepper and naturally made gifts from time to time and other exclusive Patreon member rewards when they become available. To help support our community, please subscribe and hit the like button, please comment below, please share this video on social media, and please make sure you have the bell icon hit for notifications of when videos are released. Find me on Facebook, just type Ethical Preparedness Page in the Facebook search box. Anyways folks, if you made it this far, hey, thank you very much for watching, and I pray that you have a good night.